Hi, I'm Laura the Library Lady, and thank you for joining me for this episode. Today I will be discussing an adult nonfiction book. The title is The Grace of Silence by Miss Michele Norris, and it's her memoir. Chapter 8, Service. Years in the military had marked the men ruling the households in our neighborhood in Minnesota. Every time you stepped into someone's living room, a distinguished man in the uniform stared back at you. No matter how jolly or bald my schoolmates' fathers were in middle age, the military portraits proudly placed on mantels and dining room buffets preserved their chiseled youth. Men fighting a sedentary lifestyle's battle of the bulge would loosen their trousers and settle into their recliners to throw back a cold beer while watching the evening news or chuckling along with Johnny Carson. Every so often, when the daily grind would cease, they would gaze upon the old picture of a younger man looking past the camera into the middle distance. Whether smiling or serious, their confident expressions seemed to say, "We saved the world, and we know it." These World War II veterans didn't need Tom Brokaw to tell them that theirs was the greatest generation. They had only to look at those vintage 8x10s to feel a shimmer of pride and gratitude. Perhaps they also felt a thud in their gut, remembering the Brunswick scum of war. Now the boys in the photos were working class men who had learned to compartmentalize their feelings with grim efficiency, a common survival tactic after climbing out of foxholes or submarines. Tending the nest is often women's work, but I suspect it was the men who took it upon themselves to display their wartime portraits. They were the ones who nailed the hooks in the wall or created altar-like arrangements of their photographs and service medals. So that's just the opening of Chapter 8. I loved meeting Miss Michele Norris. She is a commentator on NPR. When I spoke with her at the book festival, she talked about how important it is to preserve family stories. This is important to all families, but especially African American families, since our family tree may be broken because of things that happened in our past. She's very gracious, very approachable. She was like a person I had known all my life, and we only spoke for a few moments. She encouraged me to talk to my parents and write down what they say to me, and I encourage you to do the same. I can remember spending special time at both of my grandparents' houses. I did ask them about their childhood. My grandfather, my mother's father, Stonewall, Collins, used to tell rhymes all the time. And nothing made sense because my life experience was very different than his. And my big mama, my father's mother, was born in 1910 and passed away in 2009. So can you imagine someone who lived through World War I, the Great Depression, World War II, the Korean War, the war in Vietnam, gone through the Civil Rights Movement, and then seeing the election of Barack Obama. What a lifespan. And she was pretty with it until the end, and she owned her own home and car when she passed away. And she was a person who was always positive, and she had really, she actually worked for Chrysler, was laid off for 5 years, and she worked as a domestic, she worked doing hair, and when she went back to Chrysler, she had to make up those 5 years. And the great thing is, she was retired longer than she worked for Chrysler. And I know my home city of Detroit is really wrestling with a lot of financial woes right now. But my grandmother worked and received her retirement, but she was a hard worker. She worked way until her late 80s. People didn't even know how old she was. And she loved hats. So I'm wearing hats outside, not only because it's hot, but because, my grandmother. So I would encourage you to check out this book. Check out Michele Norris on NPR. You can get this book at Barnes & Noble like I did, because I actually bought this book for my dad. You can get it online at Amazon memoir.com, and you can go, you got it, to my favorite place to get a book, your public library. So once again, The Grace of Silence by Miss Michele Norris. Check it out. Happy reading, and thank you.